and welcome to the Semex podcast. My name is Clarissa McCallum, our corporate photographer and content creator. And it's that time of year again. It's August Proofs. I'm joined here today by Carl Barclay, Manager of Internal Product Development, and Paul Trapp, Genetic Acquisition Team Lead. Welcome to you both, and happy Proof Week being over, and we get to talk about it.
Thanks, Clarissa. Oh, Proof Week continues. We're still learning all about it.
It never ends, really.
It's an ongoing situation, as always, looking at bullproofs, diving into the information. And certainly in this series of podcasts, I think, Carl, this is your first time on here, and we'd be really remiss if we didn't take an opportunity to give an overview of kind of the Progenesis program. I know that's a big topic to cover in a short amount of time, but what are some of the highlights you'd like to share with us about Progenesis?
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. And thanks for having me on the podcast. It's kind of fun to talk to you both about proofs. And then, we can talk a little bit about Progenesis for sure. I guess the big question would be, well, where do you want to start? I feel like I could talk in a million different ways about what we do or what's happening. But
maybe just tell us a little bit about, like how many, let's start at maybe not the basics, but how many donors do you have in the program? Kind of how many OPUs are you doing a week?
Oh, that's a great place to start, Paul. Yeah, we kind of consider our donor group as kind of where it all begins as far as like making the next generation. You got to pick the right ones, or hopefully we do. And so on any given week, we plan to do over 50 OPUs. So ovum pickups on 50 different donors. And we're mating those donors to make mainly biopsied embryos, which the lab team in Quebec will take a sample of each embryo, send it for genomic testing. And then from there, we get a file every week and we select the embryos that we want to implant. So
that leads me into the next logical question. So you get those really neat embryos and we hope for pregnancies and we want to get them in good recips. Kind of what's the next step? Where do those embryos go, get implanted, and then where are they born at?
Yeah. We maintain a recipient herd in Quebec that's really close to the lab. So that herd is at a rented farm, but we have over 400 recipients that are there, and we implant over 30 embryos a week generally. And from there, those recipients calve in Ontario near our calf farm where the calves are raised at Character and go from there. We also send embryos every week to Ferme Landry-Noir in Quebec, mainly female embryos. We have an arrangement with them and our agreement, if you will. So we have a large number of female calves born every month there. And that's been going since like early 2025, where the first calves were born there in August of 25, I should say, for a year. And then we also implant embryos in the US, mainly at Genetic Futures and the Ducats there. So they do a good job with fertility rates and stuff. So mainly embryos are implanted at those 3 sites.
So I know, so then you get the live calves on the ground and we retest them, make sure where they are. And then you have kind of a separation again. The males go one way, maybe just touch on how and when they probably get to Semex, and then the females, how their life cycle, what happens with them.
Yeah, so everyone always wonders that if we biopsy the embryo, how come we have to retest the calf? And there's good reasons for that. Our breed associations like to make sure that the calf is in fact the right calf of the embryo that we implanted. And so that's rarely a challenge, or touch wood, almost never. But so we always confirm that the calf is who they are when they're born and associated with the correct tag. From there, the males, they usually leave our Character facility at about 5 months of age. They're not too far from Brockville, really, a short truck ride. And calves born in the US, it kind of just depends on what truck Semex has moving out of there, but we coordinate that through Jen, who you work with, of course, Paul, who does all our bull trucking too. So and females, they'll take different directions. So all of our female calves stay at Landry-Noirs that are born at Landry-Noirs. If there's any that we want to use as a donor for the program, they come into Bovitech and we'll work them, and then they'll go back to the farm. And all of our donors that are born within our own program at Character, those calves are either sent to Bovitech or they kind of take a long route and become recipients for us. There is a portion of those that also make embryos just for sale. So we sell PA embryos in some markets. So we'll use some of them as donors as well, but not for product development purposes all the time. And the same thing kind of goes in the US, our calves born there. We do work with Rock Creek Innovations in Clinton, Wisconsin. So we have some donors that are being OPU'd there. And other ones may go on to our Embryo on Demand program to make PA embryos.
And then after those elite donors go through the cycles, get some pregnancies, it's real important to get them pregnant, right? And then once they're pregnant, what's kind of the next steps that we go through or you go through?
Yeah, so we have two main herds right now that we work with that take almost all of the donors. If they've created a pregnancy within our program, those donors we want to keep and manage. So they'll go through Character and West Coast, and we have agreements with those herds to get those donors milk recorded and classified. And we want to maintain them there just for lifetime milk records. And it's really nice to go back and really analyze the cow families too, to see which ones are performing generation after generation. It adds a lot of confidence for us. And I think it should add a lot of confidence to our customers as well. And I kind of forgot to mention, but West Coast also implants some fresh embryos for us every week. And it adds up to quite a few individuals. So females from there sometimes often come back into our program, or they go into the West Coast program as well. And bulls obviously come to Semex from there. So they're kind of a recipient herd for us, and also a kind of a donor program herd as well for Progenesis. So they've been great partners for us.
And they also, I believe, milk the most amount of cows in Canada. Is that correct?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And a good portion of the high genetic ones are from Progenesis. So
excellent. And you kind of breezed over it, but I think a really key point that I like to always talk about the Progenesis program is it's not cheap to, have those cows go back to a farm in production, get classified. Clarissa and the team go out and get them pictured. You're kind of being a little humble here about some of the scores, but how many excellent cows has Progenesis bred over the years?
Yeah, that's a neat point to talk about. Last November, Holstein Canada released the number of excellent cows by prefix, and Progenesis was we were at 114 at that point as of November of 25. So that's pretty neat. I mean, those cows have been classified in so many different herds in Canada, but I know since then we've added quite a few more. So I'm kind of excited to get the new report for 2026 to see how many we're at.
And just an asterisk for those people not in Canada and not familiar with the Canadian program, it takes 3 calvings to be an excellent cow in Canada, correct?
Yes, 3 calvings. Yeah. And so cows carrying the Progenesis prefix, when we were thinking about that number, it was only about 3 or 4 years of cows eligible to be scored excellent, really based on the time, like when the calves were born, and then how old they have to be before scoring excellent, roughly, at the earliest about 4 years old in Canada. So
excellent. I know that was a short overview, and it sounds, you make it sound easy, I guess is what it is, Carl, but appreciate everything you do for Semex, the team, and definitely the Progenesis prefix is noted up and down our lineup, from proven bulls to young bulls to future bulls, and on both sides of the pedigree. So we appreciate everything you and your team do.
Thanks, Paul. But yeah, doing our best for Semex.
Next, I guess we're going to move right into the topic of GTPI. First, I was going to talk a little bit about, there wasn't any formula changes, but Holstein USA came out with a new composite. It's called the Holstein Confirmation Composite, Holstein Confirmation Composite, or HCC for short. It's a confirmation selection tool that identifies the combination of linear traits associated with moderate size, balanced, functional cows. The HCC assigns 18 linear confirmation traits based on their relationship with longevity, production, and balance according to the correlations amongst these traits. By contrast, PTAT that we're used to is a genetic evaluation based on final score. PTAT and HCC both describe confirmation in different ways. PTAT will be continuing to be published, and HCC does not change how Holsteins are evaluated through the classification program. The interesting thing about HCC and the things that I like about it is I think it's a way of describing more of the modern cow, a functional cow that can compete in any environment. And I'm proud to say that our team, the external and internal program, I wouldn't say we had the foresight to look at this index, but as you look at the first ranking of it, the bulls in the top 200 for proven bulls, 5 out of the top 20 bulls are from Semex. Some names like Early Bird, Lugnut, Alcove, and Holy Smokes are bulls that have made customer satisfaction cows in the herds. And it's nice to see that them rank very well. And all of those bulls are in the top 20 for the proven ranking. And similarly, and actually even better for the future, in the top 200 list that came out for HCC, Semex has 6 of the top 10, 11 of the top 15, and 30 of the top 50. So as a team, I think we take great pride in that we are making the type of cows. We are listening to the feedback from customers, reps, breeders around the world, the type of cows that are going to compete in a modern environment, whether that's a large freestall, open lot, or a robot herd. So that's going to be a new index. not currently in the TPI formula, but that is a new thing to look at. And it's optimal traits, which is nice for it as well. One other change, Carl, or not change that we saw in TPI this time, is that most of the DPR values went up. Generally, the TPI of animals drifted up about 30 points. Production decreased a little bit as fat and protein did cause net merit to soften just a hair. But maybe talk about what caused the DPR. What was the change there? What did you see? A little bit more about DPR for our listeners.
Yeah, that was an interesting change this time. But for sure, like when we look at the change in TPI on different bulls, it looks like a lot of it can be linked to that change in DPR. Not every time, but for a good portion of the population for sure. And basically I guess the quick overview is that DPR is now incorporating like an individual herd's voluntary waiting period for breeding. And that modified or changed the calculation on those cows' fertility within herd. And then that index is reflected accordingly to that. So with DPR, we saw it's 40% of the fertility index. And the fertility index, of course, is part of the TPI. So that's kind of where we saw most of that change come from.
That's a good explanation of it. In general, I think when I calculated roughly a rule of thumb is 1 point of DPR equals about 10 TPI points. I think when you calculate it out, I'm not sure if my math skills are 100% accurate on that, or what the plus and minus is, but that's a rule of thumb to think of for that.
That's a good one.
Just looking at the top 100 list, Semex has 14 of the top 100 proven bulls, and it's fun to go down that list because you see a lot of customer satisfaction bulls we've talked about on this podcast before. Monteverde, Sugar High, Einstein, and it's nice to see Perky end up at the number 62 TPI spot. He had a nice day, gained about almost 50 TPI points and about similar for net merit. And he'll be a huge influence in our program through the bull Fargo. We're going to have lots and lots of Fargo sons to come in the next little while and quite for a while. One bull I wanted to talk about specifically today was the Power Star bull. Power Star is the number 13 proven bull in the U.S., and he's actually the number 4 proven bull in Holland. And this is a bull, when you look at his U.S. proof, he's over 1,000 for milk. He's over 3/4 of a point for type. He's plus on DPR. And then he doubled the amount of daughters in his proof this time for production and kind of went up straight across the board, about 100 pounds of milk, up on fat, up on protein, for a net gain of about 72 TPI points and about 35 net merit. Equally doubled about his type daughters and made slight increases on PTA, udder composite, and foot leg across the board. So that was really nice to see a bull that was part of our internal program. So thanks to Carl and his group. As we look at some Power Star sons that we have available, a couple come to mind, and one of those is from our internal joint venture program. Beyond High Power would be a bull that's sold quite well for us. He's pushing over 60,000 total units sold. A bull that's over 1.5 points of type and nice DPR. A couple other Power Star sons that are available to our customers would be T-Spruce Junction and T-Spruce Bootlegger, who are both A2, BB, and over right at 1 point on DPR. Both of these bulls just kind of getting started, but more available in sexed and conventional semen. Power Star will be a big influence on our maternal side and internal program. Hats off to you, and working with Seamers, Holsteins, a cow, Power Star 41312, as some of our highest Power Star and available maternal grandsons. Hooray and Heyman are both full brothers, sired by Carl. They were released this spring and have started selling well. Both of those bulls are over 1.5 points of type, point on udders, and right around 1.5 points on DPR, both of those that were released and doing quite well. Hooray would be our highest fast start available bull, sitting at 35.47 TPI. One other bull that came from the internal program, his maternal brother, is Hondo, who was released a little bit earlier in 2026 and is off to a nice start. He's up to almost 20,000 units of semen sold, over 1 point on type. Just to mention, their mother again is a Power Star out of our favorites, AOT Deluxe Highlighted. And this Power Star daughter, she was used in our biopsy program, has a lot of embryos that did quite well. And I looked it up, Carl. She's got 10 daughters over 3,500 TPI and maybe one special Torchlight daughter that you maybe want to mention.
Yeah, very special Torchlight daughter. And she's got a full brother too, or a couple of them. But yeah, we're really excited we got Torchlight. Her name's High Society, but she's the #1 GTPI female in the world. And she just started on OPUs for us a couple weeks ago, and she's off to a good start. But we were pretty excited to see she maintained her #1 spot, and all excitement for the future.
So we'll be excited when her animals, like you talked about, her offspring go through the Progenesis program, and hopefully they follow the same pattern of the mother and grandmother. That cow family's done extremely well across the globe. So
crazy well. They do well on the HCC index too.
Yeah, they certainly do. And they get cows pregnant. I know the family's done quite well on DPR and HCC, everything over the years. Let's maybe change gears a little bit, go north of the border, talk about your homeland there. Let's talk about if you could update us on LPI a little bit on proven bulls.
Yeah, LPI, kind of an exciting thing for our program was the addition of an official proof on Progenesis Ambrose. So he was kind of one of our, first bulls that was kind of bred more for the LPI market. And way back, we purchased the Mystique Lambda Annis cow from Fair Mystique, kind of with the intention of using Ranger on her, because we knew Ranger was a high-ranking bull at the time, and we wanted to kind of line up some donors that would cross well with him. And Annis was one. So we've always kind of had a soft spot for Ambrose. Is kind of like new bull, and we were happy with the calves, but the milking daughters has been really exciting to watch develop. He's 89% good plus and better on over 300 daughters scored in Canada. And so next proof, he'll add a lot more daughters with the rate that they're coming in. I think in his current proof now, for confirmation, he just has 188 as part of that. So he'll add a bunch more as time goes on quite quickly here. But even then, he came up 2 points in confirmation, is now plus 14. And the reports that we get is that breeders really like them. They're well built. They have really good udders, particularly like high and wide rear udder attachments with really good fore udders. Teat placement has been really good. I know quite a few robotic farms have commented on that they're really great robot cows, and he's got some good robot plus information there too. But a bull like this also coming up a few hundred kilos in milk as well. He's now almost 1,200 kilos in milk in Canada with good deviations for fat and proteins. So red carrier bull too, which is nice. See some red ones out there.
I was fortunate enough to travel with the Swiss genetics group this summer, and we saw a bunch of Ambroses in robot situation. And the interesting thing to me is a lot of the breeders said, or owners said, they like to go to work. They like to go to the robot. So that's always a positive thing that can't maybe read on paper, but it's a nice thing to have with him.
Yeah. And we'd kind of be remiss to see, like he is kind of a low milking speed bull, but it hasn't seemed to be something that we hear about on farm a lot. And we do ask. And like we said, the Robot Plus brand incorporates more than just milking speed in its index. And these cows do like to use the robot. They like to go, and they kind of do everything else really well.
Yeah, and they're modest size, so they fit in that real world environment quite well.
Yeah. I was at Character recently, and a full sister to the bull, Ambrose, has just calved for the 3rd time, and she looks to be doing quite well. So hopefully she'll add to the number of excellent cows for Progenesis shortly.
Excellent.
I should also mention too, Paul, there, the Dam of Power Star, speaking of him on the TPI side, she's actually up here in Canada at Character, and she's fresh again for the 4th time. So she's still trucking along. Looks to be doing just fine in her environment there too. So
excellent. We like success stories, cows that calve in, year out, and continue to go to work.
Exactly.
Next, I'll just maybe touch on some of the GTPI lists when we kind of look at young bulls and how Semex did, and maybe point out some bulls there. The top 200 genomic list just came out, and Semex has right at 40% of those bulls, 39 bulls out of the top 200, led by several bulls in the top 10, Gustafson, Super Freak and Time Traveler, both bulls that we've been using quite heavily last couple months in the internal and external program for mating sires, and they've worked quite well. The other thing that's really important about this list of those 39, 40 bulls from Semex in the top 200, I did count it up. There's a dozen of those bulls, 12 of those bulls that are available today through our Fast Start program, and even a bull like Heavenly that ranks there that was a past member of the Fast Start program. So we have bulls that rank well, but they also have semen available, and many of these high-ranking young bulls will have semen available probably before we see Santa Claus in the fall. So we have bulls in the system, and the diversity of those pedigrees are kind of fun to see as well with those bulls. One thing I did want to point out a little bit about over time is just roughly so people have a gauge. And bulls of all ages, there's about 30 bulls that are over 36.20 on a GTPI basis. And if you go from drop 100 points to 35.20, so within 100 points from 35.20 to 36.20, you're going to find 970 bulls. So there's a lot of tight rankings on the TPI list. I think this is a great time for our breeders, our customers, our sales representatives to make sure you use that solution suite toolbox. Make sure you pick the things, the traits that are important to your dairy and things that are important to making profitability, plug that in and trust our solution systems to find those bulls that you may not find by yourself or I may not find by myself. They're bulls that are going to do the job for you. There's a tight ranking there, and that's going to help sort out which bulls will work best for you and your environment. Carl, maybe switching to young bulls, maybe on the LPI side, is there some you would like to mention there or some that you find intriguing that are either available or will be available in the near future?
Yeah, so for GLPI, young bulls, we're kind of excited to be using a bull called Progenesis Acacia. He's a high-level son from a Pazel dam that's recently fresh and scored 83 points. But it's a bit of a different maternal line. And when you think of the kind of heifers that we're mating in our LPI program, he's one that fits quite well. And on the bulls over 11 months of age, he ranks really well. He's 4,032 LPI and a +7 on type with over 1,000 for milk and a whopping 162 kilos of fat and 86 of protein, which we think is pretty cool. Another bull that we just released that we're using quite heavily is a bull called Progenesis Tapas. And Tapas, I already mentioned, comes from the same cow family as Torchlight. So his dam is actually a full sister to Torchlight, the bull. So the second dam there being the Game Day Titania cow, who's one of our favorite donors that's housed at West Coast. And I'm going to calve for the third time here shortly, but as a second lactation cow was very good 88 and made a lot of milk. So she's one we really like. So we like the maternal line of this bull. And he has a really good protein evaluation at 82 kilos as well and plus 0.4 on deviation. So for those looking for that high protein, I think he's a cool option. And then when we look even to younger bulls, there's a lot of polled influence coming into our lineup through bulls like Overhaul and Blast Off. So right now, we have bulls that are about 8 months of age. There's kind of a trio from Kleinuk that rank right at the top of our list, with the highest being 4,279 points of LPI and 13 for confirmation. So we're quite excited about what's coming through the pipeline on our matings. And we have a couple more Overhaul bulls from Kleinuk as well that are really close to that as well. We're also got some Triton influence with some bulls sired by him. And then also high-ranking bulls by Manny, which was a Riverdance son from OCD, and Monkey and Mango as well, which were full brothers.
And then some of that nice Monteverde influence that we like so much.
Yeah, and those maternal stuff. Yeah.
And it's interesting that you mentioned Tapas as well. He's probably one of the more recent bulls that ranks really well in Canada, but he ranks quite well in the US as well.
Yeah.
I think he's in about the top 55th spot, somewhere in there for top GTPI bulls. And this proof here in the US is nicely balanced as well, with good type and good DPR and nice udders and the solid level production. So
yeah, those crossover bulls are rare, but we seem to have one.
I think, Carl, since it's summertime and that always brings blue ribbons and show ring time thoughts of the year, is there any confirmation bulls that look nice on the LPI list for Semex?
Yeah, that's a great topic to bring up right now. There's actually a few that I'm really excited about that came from our internal program. We have a really nice young Tarmac daughter named Progenesis Tarmac Alexis, and she's an 87.2-year-old and a real standout in the herd that she's housed at. Her dam was an 86.2-year-old Ranger who was a full sister to Ambrose. So it's a maternal line that we really like, but that Tarmac bred really well for us. And right now she has a Lint son called Axel that Semex has released, and he's 3790 LPI, but plus 19 for confirmation, and has a nice level of milk, 968 kilos of milk. So he's kind of an extreme type bull that has high LPI to go with it. So really kind of excited about him. And he's got a full brother that's a little bit further behind. He's also 19 for type, but also carries that red factor. So two bulls that I think could be pretty neat in the near future.
The early reports on the Lint calves have been pretty nice, right?
Yeah. we'll see.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you both for joining us for this exciting proof round, as always, Paul. And thank you, Carl, for joining us this time as well.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your summer.